This is a story about some friends who have special powers. It can be said that they could turn into half humans and half werewolves. The film begins, and we see two friends who used to run a bar. Later, a stranger man comes to them, who has covered his face with a black cloth, and begins to ask some riddles from the girl there. The friend of the girl there stops him, and he puts a silver bullet in front of him, and says, "I've come here to take a special kind of box that is made up of special wood, and it has a mark on it. In that box, the spirit of the black world, a demon, is imprisoned." Hearing this, all the people present in the bar attack him, and they turn into werewolves. The girl in the bar begins to run from the back door after taking the box. She doesn't want that evil spirit of the black world, which is a dangerous demon, to come into this world after being freed. The stranger man tries to shoot his gun at the girl. He attacks the friend of that girl and makes him injured. The strange man frees the demon from the box. It was now freed in the shape of a fly, in order to spread chaos in the world. Later, we see the scene of another city where a building was completely destroyed. A young girl and her dog were stuck there. The dog was barking at everyone and was trying to bite everyone. Later, the police officer calls a man who was named Scott. He had an animal shelter. He kept many animals. That's why he saved that girl and the dog by using his powers. Here we learn that Scott was also a werewolf. While saving that girl, he was feeling quite alone. He tries to tell about this to his friend. Later, he sees a girl near the gate. She was a look-alike of his friend, who died 15 years ago. And Scott liked her a lot. When Scott turned and looked back, the girl disappeared. Scott became worried to see this, and thinks about how is this possible. My friend, Allison, died 15 years ago, then who that girl is that I see? Later, after closing his shelter, he was about to go. Later, Allison's dad comes from behind and made Scott scared. He came here to tell Scott about Allison, because he has been seeing Allison for many days. Allison's dad asks him, "Do you feel as if Allison is alive?" Scott was listening to this, but he doesn't consider this, that Allison could be alive after 15 years. Because Allison died at the hands of Scott. But why Allison's dad still thinks that his daughter is alive, and comes into his dreams and was calling the word Bardo, Bardo again. Bardo means a stage between death and life. It means his daughter has been stuck somewhere and she wants to come back. He can try to bring her back from a ritual. No one wanted to do this task, but yes, they said that they could try for it. Now, they all decide to go to the place where Allison died. Now, Scott was about to call his other friends so he could take their help to make Allison live. Later, we see another friend of Scott, who was named Lydia. She was also seeing Allison in her imagination. She somehow thinks that Allison wants to reach her. As we know that these all friends are werewolves, and Lydia has a special power. It turned out to be true whatever she imagined in her dreams. She had a special screaming power. She could shout. She again wanted to go to Scott. She also thinks that Allison is alive. Later, we see a boy in the story who used to steal the jeeps and drive them in the town. His dad was an investigation officer. His name was Derek, and he was also Scott's friend. His son used to tease him. Now, the officer doesn't tell Derek about this because he knows that his son teases him deliberately. The fire catches somewhere in the jungle. That fire wasn't set out because of any oil and petrol. In this matter, the police were taking help from Derek. But Derek knows that his son has set fire to the jungle. In this matter now, he helps the police. In this case, and also to teach his son a lesson. Later, we see Derek has come to his son, and he makes his jeep punctured with his hands with his long nails. Derek was also a werewolf, and after taking him to his house, he scolds his son a lot and tells him that you should not do these kinds of stuff. Derek's son feels himself differently because he doesn't have the powers to change himself into a werewolf. That's why he thinks of himself as different from his family. While thinking about this, he angrily goes into Derek his room. Derek has a thought somewhere in his mind that his son might ever turn into a werewolf. When Derek again goes to his son's room, he sees that his son is not there. He again goes to the jungle, and Derek feels quite angry to see this, but he can't do anything. On the other side, we see Lydia, who comes to Scott. Both of them come to the place where Allison died, and they collected mud from there because it was necessary for that magic. Both met after many years, and Lydia was excited to see Scott. Later, Scott takes her to his house, but he doesn't tell his mom about this magic. Allison's dad shows a sword to Scott. On this, Allison's blood was there. Lydia also shows them all of her drawings there that she had seen in her imagination. Their other friend comes, who begins to fix this drawing, but they become worried after seeing him, why he has come there. Lydia called him so he could help them. After mixing all the drawings, he made a cut tree there. In the middle of it, Bardo was written. Seeing that tree, Scott was quite scared, because this was the tree from all the problems began. Now, they've to find that tree in the jungle again. Scott and Lydia go to the jungle to find that tree. They call their other friend. She used to spend most of her time in the jungle. Lydia's friend was also a werewolf who was a wolf earlier. After turning into a human when she heard Lydia's call, she goes to the jungle to help them. Lydia was happy to meet her friend. Later, they went to the jungle to find that tree. They all wanted Allison to become alive again. When they were finding the cut tree in the jungle, Scott feels as if someone is chasing them. When Scott checked, he saw Derek's son was there, who was still chasing them. Lydia's friend knows about Derek's son. She tells them that he often roams in the jungle. He knows all the ways of the jungle. He must know about the cut tree in the jungle, and he'll help us. While taking help from Derek's son, they find that cut tree, and they found that tree. All of these friends together were going to perform magic on it. They have that mud and the sword, but they ask Derek's son to go, because they don't want to include him in their magic. While going, they tell him, "You won't tell your dad about this." As they start their magic, the sword flies into the air and goes into that tree. Fast winds began to blow there. But after some time, everything stops. Later, they thought that nothing has happened, and this magic would not be done by them. Everyone was about to go from there, and Scott was a little upset because he wanted to get Allison again. When he is going, strange light from the cut tree begins to shine. Allison was lying in the middle of that forest, and she was faint. They were all taking her to the hospital, and were shocked at how Allison could become alive after 15 years. When Scott takes her, his mom, after seeing her, that she exactly looks like Allison. His mom asks him how it is possible because Allison died, but Scott's mom knows nothing about magical rituals. Scott was trying to bring Allison back. Here, Allison doesn't come alone, but the demon in the shape of a bee we saw also went into that cut tree and comes into his original shape, which was a dangerous and scary demon. After taking his sword, he was yelling that he has come to spread destruction in the world. He has come especially to take revenge on Scott. Because of Scott, the demon was locked in that box. Allison was in the hospital and she restored her senses. She was unable to understand anything. Her memories of some time ago didn't come back, but the memories were running through her mind. That's where she considered all her friends as she tries to run from the hospital. And she still thinks that she is a hunter and wants to kill Derek, who is a wolf. She was beating all of them who were coming her way. She attacks Scott, and then her dad comes there and asks if his daughter has returned. Scott says yes, and Allison's dad holds Scott and asks, "Is she my daughter whom I saw?" Allison's dad's friend says Allison has returned. But the worst thing also happened. The demon has also returned, which we had long since locked away in a box. Hearing this, everyone becomes worried. We see the demon, who was in jail. There was no one else around him except for a police officer. The demon calls the police officer to him and kills him. The demon has taken out all of his powers inside him. The rest of the police officers went for the investigation in the jungle, because the fire caught there again. After some time, Lydia and her friend come to the police station. After seeing the dead body of that police officer, they think that Allison might have killed him. Later, they begin to investigate there. Allison was in her bunker, which was her secret place. She was collecting all her tools there. Meanwhile, she hears a voice from there. That was the demon's voice, who was trying to control her. In Allison's mind, the demon was implanting this idea. Scott and Derek had killed all of her family. After taking her mom's appearance, he begins to trap her. Allison somehow knows that her mom has died. Still, she is trapped in the words of the demon. She was ready to kill Scott and Derek. While chasing Derek, Allison comes to the school. A match was going on there, and Derek came to talk to the coach. The coach was scolding the students and was telling everyone to practice and says, "I need the victory." Derek came here to request that the coach allow his son to participate in the game. The coach doesn't know who Derek and his son are, but the coach agrees and says, "I'll give your son only 4 minutes to play." During this practice, Derek's son has an injury in his foot, and Derek brings his son into a room and tells him to learn to heal and cure himself. Because you are a werewolf, Derek was still thinking about his son, that he is also a werewolf like him, and he'll cure himself. Meanwhile, Allison comes there and attacks Derek. Derek tells his son to run from there, because he has an injury on his foot. When Derek tries to save himself from her attack, he sees that she is Allison, but he was shocked to see how she can be there after so many years. Allison attacks Derek continuously. And finally, one of her arrows hits Derek's neck. Derek's neck was bleeding a lot. And Derek's two friends came there, who we saw at the film's beginning, in the bar. Scott also comes there with his friends to save Derek's life. When everyone was saving his life, he told everyone to go and save his son, because he knows that Allison would have gone after him. Scott tells everyone that the demon has returned, but he has a devil army. He wanted to attack us from them. Now, Scott wanted to save his friends' lives. He takes Derek to his home. Scott's mom cleans Derek's blood and says that he bleeds a lot. Despite being a werewolf, he could die. Later, they all decide that they should treat Derek's wound with fire. Later, one of their friends begins to cure Derek's wound with fire. Seeing this, they all feel sad. They were all worried, because they thought Allison would have gone to Derek's son after Derek. One of their friends says, "I'll go after Derek's son." The rest of the friends should try to contact Lydia. Everyone was telling Allison's dad that now his daughter has become a hunter. She has become a hunter, but her dad says if my daughter will be wrong, I'll surely go against her, and I think that she is just an illusion, because Allison isn't alive. Scott leaves by telling his mom, "If Allison is real and alive, I'll again take her in my life." After telling his mom, he leaves. The man who cured Derek's injury tells Allison's dad, "I think this could be somehow a trap of that demon, that after sending any evil power in the shape of Allison wanted to kill us, and maybe she isn't your daughter." because she is after a 15-year-old boy to kill him. Hearing this all, Allison's dad says, "If my daughter isn't real, I'll go against her, and I can't let any child die in this way." In the jungle, it is shown where the police officers investigating the evil army of the demon attacked there, and were disappearing people from there one by one. Then one of the officers among them was also a werewolf and has special firepower. He was trying to save all of his friends there. There, Allison was behind Darren's son, who had come to his car shop. Meanwhile, a blast exploded between two cars. Allison was doing this all to kill Darren's son. Derek's son was trying to save himself as well, but he failed, and then Scott came there. He wanted to be killed by Allison. He was ready to be targeted by that special kind of arrow that is used to kill the wolves. He was saving Derek's son and also tried to explain to Allison, "Look, whatever you're doing is wrong. You are not a werewolf." Derek's son was injured in this all. Scott tells him to heal because he can cure himself. "You are a werewolf." While showing his powers, Scott was awakening his inner wolf. He saves and takes him with him. Scott is running toward the jungle, so he could be saved from Allison's hands. Allison has gone mad, and by using every kind of weapon, she wanted to kill Scott and Derek's son. Scott decides and tells Derek's son, "I'll try to distract Allison. During that time, you can run from there." Derek's son has now run from there. On the way, he finds a police officer who was ready to drop him at his house after saving his life. In the jungle, Scott was trying to explain to Allison, "I love you, and you and I are not enemies. And I'm not a bad person. I didn't kill your family. By thinking about this, you want to kill me." Scott was getting weaker from the arrow that hit him. He could die maybe after some time. Meanwhile, on the way, Scott's friends, who came to save him, the evil army was attacking them. Scott's friends were disappearing one by one. Scott's only friend was left alive. Scott was in a terrible condition in the jungle, and it was morning. Allison hasn't given up yet. She was still attacking Scott. Scott deliberately makes himself the target of the knife. To look, now I'm going to die. Now listen to me. He was still trying to make Allison convinced. He tells her to try to understand. Nor I, neither you've killed anyone. He reminds her that we have this mission. We'll fight for those who can't fight by themselves. We see Allison has brought him to a place where Scott was about to die within some hours. Because his condition became worse, Allison begins to remember that Scott was somewhere in her memories, and the other friends as well, and she should help Scott. Now, she saves Scott's life by using fire. She has healed his wounds with fire. Allison's dad, Scott's mom, and the others have reached here while chasing them, where Allison has brought Scott. The demon was trying to control Allison there as well. This time, Allison wasn't trapped in his words. Sir Lydia finds the burnt trees in the jungle. Out of them, ash was made up. That was used to control the spirits. Now, all of them tried to find silver-made weapons. Because they were going to fight with the devil's army, they could be killed only with silver weapons. Lydia goes to a ground where a match is going on. She sees black ash spread all around her. Because it wasn't any barrier but a portal going to another world. Lydia wasn't sure about this. But still, she couldn't erase that line. Later, a stranger comes, and he is the same man we saw at the start of the story, who has covered his face. He shows his face, and we learn that he is the teacher in this school. The demon has also tried to kill him as well. But he remained alive, and that man shot at Lydia's friend and asks Lydia to shout as much as she can. And he shows her another world here, where all of her friends were imprisoned. He tells Lydia to look at the match that is going on. This is not an ordinary match but an illusion, where all of your friends are imprisoned. He was showing this all to Lydia. That is the world of that demon, where he'll kill them all after imprisoning them forever. He told Derek's son, till you become a werewolf. All of your friends would have died. The demon throws Derek into the real world, where he meets Scott, who also knows about these things slowly. Meanwhile, Scott learns that he has to win this ongoing match at any cost. From this, they can reach that demon and defeat him. These all people and this ground were all illusions made by the demon. Scott now goes to the coach and requests him to let him play the match. I have to win this match at any cost. The coach says, sorry, I can't permit you for it. You are too older and this is the match for the children. The coach's team was losing and seeing this, the coach permits Scott to play. The coach also has to win at any cost. If he could even win with dishonestly. Scott and Derek's son have won this match. Allison also comes there, who wanted to meet her dad, but Allison's friend holds her neck. He was still thinking that Allison isn't real, but an illusion created by the demon. Allison's dad was stopping him to do this. He throws a knife toward him. That was a special kind of knife to control the wolves. Allison comes to her dad and hugs him. Her dad understands that she is his real daughter. Meanwhile, black smoke takes Allison into the world of the demon, where all of her friends were imprisoned. Now, Scott has to save his friends. If he doesn't sacrifice his life, all of his friends will die. He wanted to be killed by Allison. Seeing this, the demon was happy that Scott will die. The arrow from which Allison hits him, and one of their friends has saved Scott from her firepower. As a result, the arrow couldn't even touch Scott. But it was just an illusion. Allison's dad, Scott's mom, and all have come. Everyone after coming there attacks the demon spirits that could be killed by a silver bullet. Lydia shouts loudly there as well. Because of this, Allison has restored all of her memories. All the evil powers near her fall away, and Lydia saved her friends. The demon was also not to give up so easily. When Scott bit him, he also turned into a werewolf. Here, Scott and Derek's son held that demon, and Scott was also helping them. After bringing this demon to that tree, they tried to burn him, so he could never come back again. Derek feels that this demon could not be easily killed, so he thinks here that Scott is an alpha, so he will save everyone. So Derek decides that he'll sacrifice his life while burning with this demon. While going, he tells Scott that his son has also become a werewolf, so take care of him. He throws Scott away and begins to burn with the demon. Derek has sacrificed himself by being burnt with that demon to save his friends. His son was still in grief to see his dad burning with the demon in front of his eyes. Finally, we see everyone was gathered at Derek's house. They were missing Derek, and Scott was telling everyone. Derek was like my brother, and he also tells them that Derek's son will live with him now. Scott has now brought Derek's son to his house. He takes him to his animal shelter as well. He likes a dog for Darren's son, and for himself as well. Finally, Scott got Allison after so many troubles. He was going to start his new life with Allison. Allison and Scott have met. On the other side, we see that strange man. His story is left. He wasn't the one to go so easily. The secret agents take him with them. While shouting, he tells everyone that the children live here are the werewolves. They have special powers. I want to stop them and also teach them a lesson. The doctor among the agents says, okay, keep on saying. Someday the world will believe you, and he might know everything about Scott and his friends. They take the man with them, and the story of Teen Wolf ends here.